John, if you want to try to share your screen, I'll do a short introduction. Um, so, John Hasse, a PhD, is a professor of geography and director of the Geospatial Research Lab and Department of Geography, Planning, and Sustainability at Rowan University, where he teaches various courses in geography, GIS, and planning. Um, John has taught courses where he integrates the big picture perspectives of geography and big history. Central to this work is the perspective of humans as a storytelling species. Professor Haas integrates these same interests in his research, where he has been conducting ongoing multi-decade analysis of urbanization, New Jersey, and the environmental impacts of future development. John, want to go ahead? Do you have are you unmuted? Uh,
Can you hear me now?
yes. Uh-huh, very good.
Okay. Yes, I'm talking away as I'm muted there. It's good to be with everyone this morning from South Jersey, not outside of Philadelphia. I'm teaching here at university called Rowan University. It's kind of the South Jersey State Research School, kind of a little brother to Rutgers University, but we're really up and coming and growing in the area. And we have been working with and trying to figure out the best way to bring big history into the curriculum at Rowan. And so I'm continuing that theme in my presentation today. It's continued to evolve in its presence. And we are continuing to figure out how to improve the effectiveness of having big history in the curriculum. Now, I'm coming from a department of geography. Now it's expanded to geography, planning, and sustainability. Uh, but we are at core have been a geography department since 1970. And geography is a discipline that has a long history. It's one of the oldest disciplines, but it's only in about 10% of the universities in North America, sadly speaking, which is it's much more prevalent in other parts of the world. But the 10% of universities that have geography departments feel like we have a special role to play in having geography and the story of planet Earth be an important narrative that our young people have. And so I think there is, well, as a geographer, have always felt like big history and geography have a certain special synergy to them. But I do not intend to say that there's not other departments that can't have really good synergies with big history. But I'm gonna share how geography at Rowan here is how we have developed big history and how our plans for the future in that, because I think it does address a gap in how do we do this at the curriculum level at the university level in North America. And I think it's a big challenge, and that's what I hope that this presentation will help to generate discussion for. Okay. And okay, so collective learning, it has been a major idea and theme within big history. And I, I wrote a paper a couple of years ago in the Big History Journal talking about how storytelling is really how I view humans, and that collective learning is the effect of what storytelling has given our species. And so I replace collective learning with not that collective learning goes away, but storytelling becomes the first step in collective learning in the way that we teach big history here at Rowan. I do agree with the premise that David Christian has really brought to the forefront, that big history is the needed missing origin story of our modern culture. We don't have an origin story that is unifying to everyone, and science is the language which everybody does share. and big history has the potential to be our origin story. It is, whether we are really consciously thinking about it or not, it's certainly becoming that. But to do this in a more conscious way through big history curriculum within the university I think, a very important role for it to play, although kind of not necessarily um, the type of thing that we think about as academics is our mission to have origin stories for our young people, right? So that's another point that I want to kind of have as discussion, how we bring that role in a way that's comfortable as academics. And so I think that universities should be where this happens. And I have to say, my sense is that in the North American universities, we don't have the development of big history percolating through all universities in the way that it really has the potential, and that I think it still can. But it's surprising to me that it hasn't been more infiltrating into the essence of university education when we desperately need it going into the Anthropocene here. So, some of the big questions is, how does big history fit within the university education? I don't have direct answers, but I have some, information to share about how we're trying to do it here and the lessons that we learned. Why hasn't big history gotten more traction at the university level in North America? Um, I think that's important for us to look at. Can big history partner with existing departments instead of trying to just be something that is interdisciplinary? It's not really um, owned or cared for by any one particular department. Sometimes it may be a history department, but it's typically a champion. It's one professor or a few professors at a university that are drawn from their own personal interest into big history. But how do we get it more into a curriculum that is championed by more than just one person at a university? And I compare this to curriculum. If you don't have a department that champions your curriculum and develops it as a department, it's really hard to make that happen, because departments are very good at promoting their self-interest. And there is no department of big history, at least that I have been able to find in North America. Um, can big history enhance teaching of the Anthropocene? I think this is really essential. We've been teaching Anthropocene, or things leading up to the Anthropocene, in geography for decades, but we don't do it as a narrative so well. And big history brings that narrative to geography. So I'll be talking about that. So in trying to figure out where this fits in and how this paper is trying to address a gap in the literature, some of the gaps that seem to pop out, and that I don't get into all of these, but there are certain areas that are really important for us to be doing additional work in big history, I believe, going forward, is the learning outcomes that is systematic, that can be modeled throughout different departments, that can tie into particular general ed or core teaching learning outcomes. It's all there, but I don't see it happening except for Dominican University. And I hope I can be corrected if people have other examples of this. And I don't know what's happened to Dominican University. I don't see that it's continued to have its general education model functioning. So that's something that I want to look more into. But anyway, I think that that's a big missing part of what I haven't been able to find in the literature. And then there's many different resources. But how can this start to address the changing models of how we're delivering education with hybrid courses, online? You know, is there research that's being done about how to effectively do this, other than the Big History Project and whatnot? Are there universities that are really doing this in a way that is addressing the changing landscape of educational delivery? But the one that I am going to focus on in this paper is the third one, and that's having a disciplinary home that can champion big history, that is not necessarily a history department. Could be a history department, but my history colleagues here at Rowan are uncomfortable with big history. It's not something that they feel that they want to be doing in the department. They're fine being part of a course or collaborating on this, but it's not something that my colleagues here at Rowan thinks really is important for them to do in the history department. So that's kind of the genesis of what we've done in the geography department here is we have been creating that home. And so some of the reasons why it's so difficult to have big history be significant in a department's curriculum are some of the things that are brought out by people like Cynthia Stokes Brown. And this is like it's different. It's hard. It's something that's outside of your expertise. And these are all things that have been mentioned in many different people's work and research. We all know this. It's not easy, but it's understandable that that makes it difficult for a department to adopt it, overall. And how do we bring it into general education? Well, we have to have a department that really stewards curriculum. And like I say, I really want to learn more about what happened with Dominican University and their general education model. It seems to really not be where it was 10 years ago when they had the conference there. Um, so, um, uh, so to ramp this up is really going to be a challenge, I think, for this idea of big history becoming part of the gen ed of curriculum in North American universities. How do we do that? How do we do that? So this is the way that we've been developing that at Rowan, because we can do it being a course from scratch, and in some ways that's the kind of the model that began with David Christian and others. You can have a core curriculum built around it, like Dominican University. You can do the big giant MOOCs and have that be kind of an online presence of it. But in the university and its department and its curriculum itself, how do we do that? Again, so number four, integrated into a big history into an already existing gen ed courses. That's the model that we took at Rowan, and that's what I have the experience to share and get feedback from this community and figure out how we can move this forward. So one thing is, if you have an existing course, you have an existing department, you have existing gen ed curriculum, the courses already exist. It's easier to insert big history into our geography courses than to make big history courses on their own that are going to be able to survive in the marketplace of courses at a university. It's less threatening to other departments if it's coming from a department that is integrating it into their own curriculum rather than its new kind of thing that competes. Big history competes with a lot of different disciplines, and it's interesting the feedback that you get when you have people feeling like your territory is being encroached upon, rather than it should be the opposite. It should be flipped. It should be, how cool is it that our discipline fits into this unifying curriculum or story of big history? But anyway, if it's not its own standalone thing, it's easier to get champions that want to contribute to this idea because it's integrating into their comfort zone of what they're already doing. So if we look at geography itself, why do we need to have big history come into geography? Well, geography, I love my own discipline, and I think it's something that we all love looking at atlases, and we're all geographers. We all use Google Maps, we all think about space, but geography as a discipline has not been very good at storytelling, at saying, how did the world get this way? It's in there some, but it's not intentional. It's not part of the curriculum. And it's a way of losing students. You can be just bored with one geographic system and this view of geography from a cultural perspective. We could put students to sleep, but telling stories and seeing how it got that way is something that really can boost the effectiveness of geography education. And so that's the kind of the eureka moment that happened here is big history really enhances geography and what its role is trying to do. And we really think that geography can be a place that that big history can feel very comfortable in having a university home where it exists. Um, uh, big history brings narrative to geography in the evolution of the Earth, in the evolution of the human spaces that geographers try to study and make sense of. The connectedness of components, not just through the geographical connections and the systematic connections, but the narrative connections of how things evolved into the way that they are today. And so
We're at 15 minutes.
we're at 15. Okay, I'll wrap this up. I'm going to go pretty fast here. So this experiment that we've had at Rowan, I think, has been really rewarding. I want to get to the conclusion here, and essentially, there's just many synergies that have happened, and if we are looking at Rowan's experience, let me get here. One thing that I think has really enhanced the big history mission is the integration of geography tools. We use a lot of mapping, and maps of time is David Christian's term, but we do have, maps that capture that change in time. And we have lots of graphics that we use in geography. And, if you look at any decent atlas, the first part of it is often the big history of the universe and the Earth. The graphically engaging tools of geography have been wonderful in doing a good job of helping big history be more engaging to students in a way, because it's focused on their place in a real way. So our course that we've been running here now for about 12 years at Rowan is called Earth, People, and Environment. And this is the 4 sections of the course. Universal setting, the ideas of big history. Second part is evolving Earth. Third part is human emergence and development. And fourth part is the Anthropocene. And we do use the thresholds of big history. We do use Goldilocks conditions and those ideas over and over again. Big history is really peppered throughout this, but the course is not called Big History. And that makes it a lot more open to my colleagues, in that they don't feel like they're big historians, but they don't mind using big history and teaching this course. Now, everybody doesn't do it exactly the same. This course, our Geography 100 course, some are much more heavy into big history than others, but generally speaking, big history is generally in most of the sections that we teach of this course. And so we do have a lot of other aspects to it that have been very synergistic. Let me get to the punchline here. It's been very rewarding, but okay. Lots of tools, but let me get to the punchline here. We have had this past year 37 sections of Earth, People, and Environment, with big history being very prominent in that. Total of 513 students. Our courses are capped at around 30. So it's not large lecture halls. It's more intimate courses. And it's been very, very well received. We've integrated into our Rowan core, our honors, and our majors. And these are just some of the comments. The students it's been a very popular course. And it has been giving us the sense that we really have done something that is onto something here. I will say, though, that our goals are now to bring it to the next level. Could we have a minor in big history that includes courses from biology and so forth, so that can be a minor for education majors, for example. Now that we introduce this, can we, have extra ways that big history is built throughout our curriculum at Rowan? And that's kind of where the department is at this point in time. So I think I'm probably bumping up against my time here, and I will open up for questions if there are questions. And let me stop my share, and I could become a human being again here. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea. My paper that I'm working on is still it's a work in progress, but it's coming together nicely, and I'm looking forward to having it prepared for the journal edition. I'm going to have these ideas a lot more sharper, and And I look forward to any feedback that the group could give me now on how I might be able to shape the paper as we're working towards the journal submission.
Yes. Thank you very much, John. It's always, impressive of how you have built that, where, other places, seem the big history programs by themselves seem to be going down, and you've been able to build this up and get that there, and it'd be kind of, we need to kind of figure out how to get this going to other places. So a lot of questions, Lionel. You want to
Yes,
unmute?
thank you so much, and I could so much relate to all what you said about this difficulty of having a big history introduced into university. It's something very structural, I think. Yes, and everyone is hyper specialized. Also, people don't like when you talk about topics that you don't know, that you're not specialist. It goes back also to even to primary education. Where we all around the world we're teaching national histories. Yes, so we know all this. But and the solution that I went through myself in Sydney is the same. Yes, you need a champion of big history that is pushing through existing channels. Yes, the class I presented, I should have said it. It's a class that already existed. It was called Modern Asia or something like this. And so I inherited it, and I offered just to transform it, to introduce big history into it. And I was surprised that the Asian studies, they said, okay, go for it. And now it's going on because it's going well, because we have 150 students and most of them are happy. So that's all, but it's not going beyond that. And if I stop teaching it, I think it will reverse to a more traditional forms. So it's a shame. Yes. Okay, I could go on and on, but I see there are many questions. But thank you very much. I could really relate to what you said. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. Stephen?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, very good.
Good. I got my microphone. No, really good. And this kind of aligns up with some research I'm trying to do with bringing geopolitics and geostrategy, which deals with how geography affects, human communities on a macro scale and macro historical scale. So that's possibly one area you could try looking into to try to develop this. And also that might also help get you a little bit more attention in academia, because especially geopolitics and geostrategy has been really on the revival lately, especially with the work of Hal Brand. So
Okay, thank you.
So very good. Gerard? Unmute. Can you unmute, Gerard?
Gerard, you have to unmute. We can't hear you.
Thought you were doing that, but no, I have to do that. Yeah. So thank you again for your talk, John. I was wondering, do you know how far students are willing to stretch their brains to do the effort to get into other disciplines than what they are being taught or known? They've been educated a certain package of knowledge in high school. Then they arrive at university. I don't know whether they have chemistry or physics or whatever. So they might actually lack a lot of information. How far are they willing to go to catch up? And how could we, as big historians, make it easier for them to get the headlines of these different disciplines that they don't know about in the context of big history?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think that our experience in the classroom has been that if you can tell the story, if we can become good storytellers, it captures all majors' interest. And if you can make it be relevant so that they don't have to give up their own interest in their major that they're in, if it's in a general education course, but you can tie into their major, that's the key. Is like, well, where do you fit in the narrative and where do you fit in the map is what we do. That integration of geography and big history. I have a lot of students from different majors in my classes that have very positive feedback. Some of them become geography and planning majors in our department after taking the course, but many of them just will say, this has helped me to have a new appreciation about why I like physics because it's connected to everything else. It's not just my interest in physics or something like that. So I think it's a matter of becoming storytellers. And that having that skill of making the connection to where students are at, and big history and geography are touch everything. Every other discipline can be touched by these disciplines.
We have 5 minutes for those who want to take a break.
All right, very good. Thank you. Elderberto?
Oh, thank you very much because I appreciate. I have I have the same difficulties for introducing big history in secondary schools, and your description is very impressive also for me. But the question just also the question of the name big history, because we can also make a big geo history or big physics or big anyway, maybe only big disciplines. I don't know. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Just for
yeah,
me,
sure.
because I have the same difficulties.
Well,
It's nice to see the other difficulties in ours.
yeah. I would just I like to say, because I have not done this myself, I do present at the National Geography Conference. I have done a number of talks that talk about big history, but I have not done a good enough job of convincing my fellow geographers how awesome and how much of an enhancement big history could be. And I would say the same thing for my big history colleagues. Open your eyes to geography departments as being possible allies, because I think it's easier for geographers to be in their feet in many different things, and it won't be so scary to have big history. And the term big history, it does work with students. Whereas other terms, I don't know if they would work as well, and it's already out there. So I'm not afraid of the term big history, but if you have a geography department in your university, see if you can start a conversation with some of your colleagues there, because it may just be a synergy that can help the big history curriculum have a home, have a department that can push curriculum through, that can understand. That's really my message today. Is I think geography is a special discipline, and it doesn't exclude anyone else. But let's pay attention to this as a synergy that might help big history have more traction in universities. So thank you very much for your time and your feedback. I really appreciate it. And if you have any comments, please email me if you think about this and you have some other ideas. My email is very easy. My last name, HASSE @Rowan, ROWAN.edu. Thank you so much.
Excellent, thank you. And it's really, what next steps do we take to kind of get this out there? And I know you've talked to geography conferences or whatever. We can always, highlight things on our website or whatever, have videos, we'll have this video up, but, kind of reaching out maybe to other people and just, word of mouth, but also trying to get it in some other places. We do have on the board, Bridget Bird O'Connor, who works with the Big History Project, doing media. And she does, for example, the current podcast with David Christian for that. And so she's interested in trying to organize something for teachers or getting some material out there. So if you have ideas on how to do that, we'd really like to share these successes with others and get them out there. So any ideas on that, just let us know.